Oh, welcome to my video. Here I'm going to show you the Carbon Cub S2. Taking it out of the box we've already done. I'm going to do an assembly video. This assembly video is going to include some extras. So I have bought a GPS module and put that over there, and I have bought a servo for the flaps extra. So when you buy this, if you get it in the RTF version ready to fly, it comes with a battery, it comes with the DSX controller, and everything will work. You don't need flaps, you don't need the GPS, and you don't need the landing assist sensor, which I also have. So we've already taken it out of the box. Here we have a bag that comes with our manual, and these two stickers, which go here, if you like, optionally. I'm going to just take the instructions out now. There's some information on charging and on the receiver. So if you're new to RC hobby, you'll realize this comes with lithium batteries, and there's a little bit you need to know about lithium batteries. So lithium batteries, if you want to keep them safe so they don't possibly go on fire, they have certain voltages where they are happy. You can buy a charger, so when you go out and you fly, if you have the Smart Spectrum charger, you can plug in the batteries and set an option called storage, and it will put them at the right storage voltage. You can also do this manually with other chargers. Spectrum Smart Charger seems to be easier, and this came with a Spectrum Smart battery, so that's the way I'm going to do it. If you charged all your batteries and then suddenly it starts raining and you don't want to fly, you don't have to worry too much about reducing the voltage down, because the actual smart batteries have a chip in them which will reduce the voltage of the batteries down to a safe storage. So the smart batteries are actually pretty cool. You don't need to use them though. You can use other batteries that fit as well. Thing is, it comes with a battery which is really nice. You can fly for, I tend to get about 15 minutes out of it, but I'm not at full power all the time. I also bought some 3000 milliamp hour batteries that last me about 20 minutes, which are quite nice. The plane is a little bit heavier. You have to be a little bit softer on the landings. Here's our manual. It's pretty straightforward. After reading it, some of the things that you want to watch out for are these vortex generators. For some people it's a bit of a mystery as to which direction they go. I will show you which direction they go and how to know which direction they go. And then we have our landing gear. It also comes with two extra wires which are for the float landing gear, which you don't need unless you're using floats, so you can just take them out of the bag, not use them, and keep them somewhere. It comes with some extra screws, that's also good. So the RTF version is coming with the controller. The controller is quite good, it works with everything, it even works with the flaps, but there are some tricks to that I will tell you about later. And also my controller had a problem which kind of caused me to crash. Well, okay, it wasn't the controller that caused me to crash. I was my reliance on the safe feature button, and then the button got stuck in. So I will show you that also in another video and show you how to fix that. But that's not too important at the moment. The one thing I would say is when you add the flaps, if you have the DSX controller, there is a button which will activate the flaps. It tends to happen when you turn on the flaps, either in beginner or intermediate mode, is the plane will nose up and will stall, and you have to give it, you can give it full down elevator control, but that's not really going to help you. In advanced mode it will work a little bit better, but to be honest, if you want to use the flaps and want to use them easily, you probably want to have a programmable transceiver. But they do work and people can fly it with the flaps. That's our bind plug, which if you bought the RTF version, you're not really going to need the bind plug immediately, because the transceiver will already be connected or will already be bound. So another thing to note about a GPS, I have heard of people saying they put in the GPS and the plane flew away and never came back. If you read the manual, there is a method for disabling the GPS. You hold the bind button and you flick a switch 3 times and the GPS is disabled. So, you know, should you have your GPS in there and should it go rogue on you, you can turn it off. Next thing to note is the assembly is split into 3 sections. So here we have the landing gear assembly, here we have the tail assembly with the vertical stabilizer, the horizontal stabilizer, and here we have the wings. And in the bag, the screws come in 3 bags marked ABC. The lettering here is, yeah, can be a little bit confusing, but just think about it as easy as ABC. First part, you're going to use A, all the screws in the bag marked A. Second part, you're going to use all the screws in the bag marked B. And third part, you're going to use the screws in the bag marked C. You're not going to use all of them. Actually, there's 1 or 2 spares in there. Okay. These are the arms. It's important to note which hole that you're going to use. Yeah, so the elevator is the second hole away from the axis. Ailerons are on the end. Rudder is on the end. I'm going to show you something here before I dig in. When you are adjusting these, I'll show you that when it comes to it. Okay, so that's it. So now we can go back here to our page 1 and look at our landing gear. Let me show you what came in the bag. You have the main fuselage here, and then we have 2 wheels. These wheels are not that soft, so when you're flying it, especially on the grass, and you think, oh, I've got these great big wheels, I can do all of this rough landings like you see guys doing, they're quite hard. And what I've noticed happens is, and I'll show you a picture of it right now, the landing gear will, after repeated landings, it tends to kind of bend out in a V shape. So when you have these 2 like this, it's fine, but when they bend out a little bit in a V shape, what was happening to me then is on takeoff on grass, they're causing a lot of drag, almost like brakes, and a few times on takeoff, it nosed over. So what I had to do was just straighten these. I wouldn't recommend straightening them on the plane. I would take the gear off, put it in a little vise, and then bend it. Save you damaging the plane, because the plane is quite light. Also, I've noticed if you're repeatedly picking up the plane when you're on the field and you keep grabbing it here like I did before with my first one, you'll end up with a lot of fingerprint indentations here. So best way when it's full is probably pick it up like that. What else came in the bag? Vertical stabilizer, horizontal stabilizer, the wheel is in here. That's all great. I put that over here. We don't need that for the moment. Our wings. So here's our aileron. Okay. It's going to control our left and right basically. Here's the front, and here is the stripe where you're going to put these vortex generators. This has a servo in here which is going to move this up and down. The cable is inside here. Pull it out, and very nice, it's labeled aileron left. This is for the flaps, which we will set up in a while. When you're setting up the flaps, 2 things have to come out. This little piece of foam here has to come out carefully, and you need to cut along here. And if you cut along here, you can use sharp knife, X-Acto knife, whatever you want. But when you cut, you probably want to make 2 cuts. I would recommend making the outer cut on this side first, here, and then the inside cut, just because it's more stable and easier to cut. Then your flaps will move up and down. Right now, they're actually fixed and stable. The other thing I would recommend is don't cut them straight away. Wait until you connect everything up, because I will set it up so that the flaps are in the up position. Then I will connect everything while it's still fixed, and that way I'm guaranteed that both sides are going to be exactly the same. Otherwise, if you cut it beforehand, you're going to kind of have to hold the 2 of them and make sure that they're both the same, and that's not as easy. Set it up, and then after that we will cut it out, and then we will check putting our flaps up and down. And here we have the second wing, much the same thing. That's for the flaps. And here we have the right aileron marked here. Now for plugging these in, there is a slight shape on the front of it, which you probably can't see, but there is if you look really closely. So they only tend to go in one way. Also there's colors here, yeah, brown, red and orange, and those colors will match with whatever you plug it into. So when you connect it, make sure, you know, the brown is on this side, and on the other end the brown is on this side too. These are going to go on the wings. This is going to go in the middle of the two wings to support them. And then we have these kind of wing struts, which, you know, people have flown without them. The wings tend to kind of bend slightly, so I recommend using them. And here we have the vortex generators. You know? So, next thing we have is our landing gear supports. So let me just grab my scissors. This one is for the floats. We don't need that. Right now, anyway. This one is also for the floats, okay? This one, which has this little weird shape here, this is for your landing gear. And one thing to note about this is it's gonna go this way, okay? So this kind of C shape, and the front of the airplane will be here. Your wheels will go on here, and if you pay attention closely, you will see that there's a flat part on the top there, and the rest of it is round. So when you're putting it together, make sure the screw hits the flat part. That'll keep them on for you. You can also use a little bit of Loctite or thread securing material. I don't have some at the moment. You can use that, but just make sure you notice where the flat part is here. That's important. Okay, so we're going to keep that, and these two we're going to put back in the bag until I get floats. So this is the second one of these I'm building, and hopefully I want to go out then with my friend and fly both of them, you know. First one needs some repairs, which I will speak about in another video, because it had a little accident. I was learning in safe mode and then moving to advanced mode, and then I was trying some aerobatics, and I was using the bind button on the controller, which if you press it, it activates the safe and brings you straight back to perfect level flight. So anytime things were getting a little bit out of control, I simply pressed the bind button and the plane leveled out. And unfortunately, I began to rely on that, so I started trying more advanced maneuvers, and you know, if it went out of control, I pressed that button, everything straightens out, and then, you know, I would try it again and again until eventually I could do it without using the safe button. My bind button on my DSX controller got stuck in. I did a maneuver, and then I thought, oh, no problem, it's getting a bit crazy, and pressed this button. I pressed it, nothing happened. I pressed it again, nothing happened. Then I realized, oh, I'll flick the switch down to safe mode. By the time I did all of that, I was in the ground, unfortunately. But part of flying these is learning how to repair them and build them and modify them, and you know, I'm gonna add lights to this someday. So here's our bag of pieces that comes out. Okay, now I should be careful with that. So an important lesson is nice tub like this. So that's A, that's gonna be for the landing gear. This is B, so I guess that's gonna be for the tail. And this is C, that's probably gonna be for the wings. These are very nice. So when you have your landing gear, when you have your landing gear, you can, you know, clip these on, and then it looks quite nice. I'm not going to use these, and the reason I'm not going to use these is because they pop off a lot on landing. And if you're at model airfield, which is quite busy, and you're on the grass, you don't want to be running across all the time trying to find these. So people have stuck them on, drilled holes, put plastic tie wraps, all types of things. Yeah, for now, I would suggest if you're starting off, yeah, leave them over in the bag for another day. This is your bind plug. You connect it to the bind cable in there for binding. Keep it. You may need it if you get a different transmitter, or for any reason you have an issue where you need to rebind your transmitter. If you have the RTF version, it's already bound. If you're buying B and C planes, you probably already know how to bind. This is a strip of Velcro for holding the battery in. And now what I will say to you is, I have done this in the opposite way to what they do. Okay, and I'll show you why. So here's my battery bag. Okay, you want to have a special LiPo safe battery bag. Here's my battery. Now what they recommend is one of these parts is kind of, you know, fuzzy part, the part without the hooks, and the other part of the Velcro has lots of hooks in it. They recommend you putting the softer part on the airplane and the harder part on your battery. I would not do that, because what I found then is it sticks to your clothes, it sticks to the carpet, it sticks to all kinds of things, and it gets, you know, pieces of your car stick to it. So I've done that the other way around. I've put the soft part on my batteries that way, because my batteries are what I take out, what I move around, what ends up sitting on a counter or on, you know, any type of surface. So put the soft part on there. You'll notice this is what came with it. I bought a separate few strips of Velcro because I just like to have something a bit higher quality. Not completely necessary, but I do like to have higher quality Velcro. What you have to realize too is you may have labels like this on your battery. If you're putting Velcro on it, you probably need to remove the label and clean it and then put the Velcro on it. Otherwise, the Velcro is sticking to the label is sticking to the battery, and then, you know, it can just come off much more easily. So that's one tip I have for that. Right, let me put this stuff away. These are what is going to hold in your landing gear assembly, and they're a very strange kind of a shape, little bit twisted, little bit thicker on one side, thinner on the other side, twisted here on this side. So they do fit flush, and they fit really well as long as you know which way they're going. Yeah? So there's a marking on here, left and right, and then, so just keep an eye on that. You know? Okay, these are little rubbers which will go on these arms here. So how you adjust these arms, and there's also some of them on the tail, is you just twist. Yeah? So if you twist this in or twist it out, it will move it up and down slightly. So another way to adjust it, of course, is on the servo arm, but this you can twist in, twist out, and then after that you put the rubber on over it. Okay, if I can show you that now. And you'll see the rubber holds it together. Yeah, so mostly the rubber would end up down here when you're finished, and then it's holding it closed. Yeah? This is for the flaps, so you may not need this if you're not going to install flaps. Okay. These are also for the float landing gear, I believe. I'm not going to use them right now. I put all of these in here. Let's open bag A. Holy moly. Okay, we'll open bag A. We're going to take out 1 or 2 screws, and the reason I'm going to do this is to find the correct screwdriver. There we go. That's my fit. That's the one I want to use. So, you know, if you don't want to round and damage your screws, and if you want to just make your life easier in general, use the correct size screwdriver. There we go. First thing we're going to do is put these wheels on. Okay, so take everything out of bag A. Okay, probably could have used the second one of these, and we do have a spare. So here, this is going to go with this tiny screw. Now if you wanted to use some Loctite just to make sure they don't fall off, you would put a tiny bit of Loctite on the first few threads here, just a tiny bit, before you screw it together. We're not going to use the Loctite at the moment. We're just going to turn that in. 1, 2, 3. There we go. There's one. So I would recommend not doing this over a floor surface, which is going to make it difficult to find that. you know, don't do this outside in the garden because the screws will fall down and you'll never find them again. Okay, here's our spare one. And with our spare one, I'm going to put the screw into it, put it in the box. Okay, so we have now one of these with the screw on the end, and we have a spacer. First goes a spacer. Okay, then we're going to put on the wheel. The wheel is, as far as I can tell, it's the same on both sides. That's going in there. There we go. Okay, that's going to work. The screw is sitting on the flat part, pretty tight on there. Yeah? You do have a spare, and using Loctite may be the best thing. Oh, first the spacer. So the spacer doesn't quite stop here. It kind of bends a little bit. You see that? But, you know, that's the way it is. Yeah? So, I clip that in there. There's our landing gear. Yeah? But as I said, now it's straight. After repeated landings, they tend to turn out. Yeah? So you take them off, you can put them in the vise, and you can kind of straighten them. And I'll show you the fuselage. So let me talk about this for a minute. There's the propeller. It's recommended sometimes take the propeller off when you're working on the plane. It's probably a good idea. This is a more powerful plane, so the propeller, it could actually cut your skin or do some damage. Yeah, so this light here on the front changes color. So if you're in safe mode, it'll be green. Middle mode, it'll be, I think, blue. And if you're in advanced mode, it turns red. So that's a good way when you're starting off to check that, yeah. And when you're starting the plane, it makes sense, of course, to start off in the beginner safe mode and then get used to it before you change modes. So here's our receiver in here. So I believe that's where I'm going to plug in the GPS, and there seems to be some cutouts here where the GPS could fit. This here is connected to our motor up the front. This here is our bind, so if we needed to bind it to another controller, we would need to plug this in here and then bind it. We're not going to do that, and that's why it's pushed all the way down here, because later you'll have the wings on here. You don't want to take them off all the time. It's much easier to access your bind plug from down there. Yeah? Okay, so here we have aileron right, aileron left. There's our servos for the tail, and here is our antenna for receiving. Then here you notice everything is already plugged in, but you will see it goes up to number 6, 7 and 8 are free. So I'm going to put the landing assist sensor into 7, and I'm going to put the flaps into 8. That seems to work on the DSX controller. And there's one up here that's free, and I would like in the future to install lights. I'm not sure if I can plug the lights in here to the one that's free or not. If anybody knows the answer to that, please give me a comment, let me know. These servos are quite good. Let's turn around and look at the tail of it here. So we're going to put the tail on here, and as I said before, these are what you're going to connect. And if you need to adjust them slightly, you can twist it. You know, look, 1, 2, 3, and now it's a bit longer. 1, 2, 3, and now it's a little bit shorter. Here's the pin on the end. So what you do is you move this rubber all the way up here, carefully and gently. And now you can split this to connect it, yeah? And then you put that back to make it secure. After you've set up the plane, I would recommend switching it into advanced mode. The reason why is because safe mode, you know, it compensates for things. So switch it into advanced mode, check everything is straight and lined up, and if it's not straight and not lined up, then take these off and twist them accordingly to get it straight and lined up. Let's look in the bottom here. So here's our door. These things break very easily. You can get spares. I'm going to open this up. So this is where my main landing gear is going to go. Here and here would be, I believe, or it could be there, I'm not sure, where my floats would go. I don't have floats. here somewhere I would like to, in the future, I'll have to take this out. This is very light, decorative. You know, you could punch that through easily if you just leaned your finger on it, so be very careful with that. This is where the landing assist sensor would go. You just push it down and it pops out. Yeah. And right now what they've given you, there's a little spring connector in there. So this is just a piece of plastic, it's not a landing assist sensor. You have to get it level and then click, it stays in, click, it pops out. You're probably gonna knock that out with your hands now and again. I'll take it out for now. So at this stage, of course, you know, I've had my first plane, I've flown it quite a bit and of course crashed and repaired it. So I don't really need this landing assist sensor. What it does is, when you're getting close to the ground, works best on grass, it will see the distance from the grass. Just like an airliner, when an airliner is landing, you know, sometimes you watch the videos, you hear this thing that says, you know, 50, 40, 30, it's measuring the distance to the ground. This is kind of what this does. And what it will do is, when I'm teaching my friend how to fly, you can put the plane in the beginner mode using safe, and then when you want to land, you can simply pull the power back, aim towards the runway, and when the plane is coming in, the sensor will see how close it is, and when it gets close to the ground, it will add a tiny little bit of power and it'll nose up a little bit. So it'll do the flare for you. Yeah. So, you know, someone starting off learning, of course, you can teach them about the flare, you can teach them about everything, but you know, if you spend so long teaching them about everything before they actually fly, they might just leave out of boredom. So my plan is to kind of teach them a little bit, let them have some fun, let the sensors help out a bit, and then when they get good at that, introduce the flare and other things like that. Yeah? So that's going to go in there. So we can put it in here now. Feed our cable down there towards the front, and we'll hope. So a little bit of fishing involved here. Some long tweezers might help. Which way around was it? This way? That way? There, landing assist sensor fitted. This is our battery compartment in here. There's a little bit of Velcro for holding your battery on, but the main thing that holds the battery on, of course, is this. And that's your battery connector. And keep your bind plug down here so that you can, you know, reach it easily, you know, when you need to. So the battery goes in there. The battery can move forward and back. You will practice with your battery moving it forward and back so that you get the right center of gravity. You have to be careful to have the right center of gravity, because if your center of gravity is too far forward, the plane will be very difficult to fly. If your center of gravity is too far back, you're probably going to crash the plane. Yeah. So aft center of gravity is something that you never really want. At least something that I never want. So I'll show you now. My battery is here, and when I would open that, let me take that out, I tend to line it up just 1 or 2 millimeters past where the landing gear bar is, and that seems to give me a good center of gravity, but all the planes will be slightly different. So that's that. I will also remove this Velcro here, and I will remove this sticker, and then I will, you know, I will put the sticker somewhere else because maybe I'm supposed to have it, so I'll keep that there for later. And the Velcro later I will remove. I will put my stronger Velcro on there. Here is the smooth side and the other side is the sticky side. I do mine the other way around. Yeah. I've also flown this with the 3000 milliamp hour battery. Also make sure your battery is not completely here or completely there, because your center of gravity is not two-dimensional. Your center of gravity in the airplane is kind of a three-dimensional point. So if you put it here, you'll be moving the center of gravity towards here, and your plane will keep tilting over all the time. Yeah? So just be careful of that. So those are a few tips. So it's probably not going to be the fastest build video ever, but I just kind of want to, for beginners, just give you a few tips while we're learning. So, okay, landing gear Goes in there like, oh, let's take this cable out there first. Okay, there we go. Oh, there's another little strip of Velcro there, huh? Which would imply that the battery should go all the way up here. But if it does, then yeah, I'm not sure about your center of gravity. So I'll hold the other side of the plane now while I push that in with my finger. And I'll push this in. Good. And this is right. Okay. So we would imagine that this is the right side of the plane. Upside down it would be the left. So let's see how that idea works out for me. That works out pretty good. Your left and right are opposite when the plane is upside down. Yeah. Also, I guess that's the same if you're flying inverted. Okay, there goes one screw in there. So we put the screws in just halfway first. Yeah? Never tighten them down completely the first time because it may be difficult to line up the second screw. Now when they're both lined up, lighting is not great. Okay. There you go. So that is perfectly flush here, yeah? And we examine the shape of it again. So left. So I think the bigger chunk of it is going towards the back of the plane. And the text that says left is pointing down. And that seems to work out for me quite well. Nice to have the stand on the field, so you know when I'm changing my battery I can do this instead of turning it upside down on the table or on the grass or whatever. Close my hatch and be careful of it because it tends to break. So I don't know about in the States, but if you're flying in Europe, I put my little sticker with my ID right here, which is a good location for it. So landing gear done. Turn it over. Here's my landing assist sensor, which is going into number 7. So if I have a look here, it seems to be that on all of these, the brown cable is towards the back of the plane and the orange cable is towards the front. So let's do that. Okay. That's going to be good here. And my flaps are going to go into number 8. So next section we can do is the tail. So we have 2 pieces. Okay. This is our control for our elevator. It's going to be on the bottom. And it's going to go here. So it just goes through these 2 holes here. Okay, let me catch it here. Put it together like that. It's fitting flush. That's good. There's a tiny hole here where there's going to be a screw, which is going to go in there in a few minutes. Yeah. So this is going to go in here. There's a little tab here which fits in here. I'll tilt the plane. Now you can see it a little bit better. Okay, there we go. Goes in there. Great. So now let's turn it upside down. And we need bag B. These are the 2 small screws for the back. These are the 2 screws for here and here. One is a spare. Put that into the box of spares. This is going to go straight down in here. 3, 4, 5. Let's try a different screwdriver because these are a little bit bigger. Yep. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now I'll put the little little screw in the back. So this could be a little bit tricky here. Okay, that's in a little bit as well. So now they're all just in a little bit, and I'm going to tighten them down. Okay, so I'm just support it here. Sorry about all the squeaks. Okay, we don't want it too tight because they're small screws. They're just going into plastic, so you screw it down to the end and then just give it a little small twist to tighten it. Okay, and here. So we tighten this all the way down, and then they say we twist it half a turn out so that it can swing freely. Good. Next thing we can do are connect these. So let's double check now in our book. This is going in the outermost. And this one also in the outermost. Good. So we move our little plastic cover down to free this up. I twist it a little bit, and this is kind of interesting. Open it up. Okay. Clip in. It's closed. And I'm not gonna normally push this back on here. I'm not gonna do that yet. And the reason I'm not going to push that back up yet is because I may need to adjust these when the plane is all set up. So again, you could put a little screwdriver or something in here if you wanted to open it out. That little noise was the servo moving. That's in there, and again that will come out until here to tighten it up, but you see it's moving the servo. So when the plane is all powered on and set up, the servo will obviously have a position that it thinks is neutral, and once the servo has set itself up and entered its neutral position, the neutral position might not be exactly level or exactly straight here. Therefore we will adjust those and get it all lined up. Now we have bag C, which is for the wings. And we have our wings here. So this is wing, I guess the right wing. So first thing I'm going to do now is add these vortex generators. So keep all the screws over here, and I'll open this bag. Warning notice there, keep these bags away from small children for good reason. They're all the same size. Good. Okay. And we have 4 of these adhesive strips. So let me show you something now. The question is, of course, which direction do they go? So there's 2 ways to realize or to figure out. So there's 2 ways to figure this out. So we have here these kind of V shapes, you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So the shortest part of the V here is about, is it 6 or 7 millimeters apart? That's the part you want facing to the front of the airplane. Yeah? If it was the other way around, it would be much wider. So the narrowest part of the V is what's pointing forward. Also, if you notice here, you'll see on one side is a slightly curved edge, and this is kind of a square cut edge here at the back. So the square cut edge is the back, the curve goes towards the front of the airplane. Okay, so curve towards the front, shorter part of the V towards the front. So now I need to take 2 of these sticky strips, and they're going to sit in here like that. Okay, that's going to go up here, and we're going to keep that straight all the way down. There we go. Okay, there we go. That's that. So on the front of the airplane is this yellow edge. Yeah, the back is the aileron and the flaps. Let's see how these guys line up. So again, that would be backwards. The curved edges towards the front. One of these will go in here. Curved edges towards the front. The other one will go there. Oops. And they do fit exactly, touching each other. On the ends, you're going to end up with this little, you know, piece that there isn't exactly a V. Nothing we can do about that. Unless, of course, maybe it's... and it's the same thing. Yeah, so... Okay, so I take this out. I take this out. And now we remove the strips of white paper. Okay, let's hold it up here. There's the front. Let's double check again. Curved edges towards the front. I'm going to put it right to the edge. Yeah, and there we go. And there we go. That's in there. Second one, again, little curved edges and the shorter part of the V going towards the front. There we go. So the vortex generators are there. That's how they correctly sit. Curved edge towards the front, square edge on the back, short part of the V towards the front, and the wider ends on the back. So that's the first wing. Now I'll do the second wing. Here we go. Remove the first side of the sticky paper. It's going to go there, straight down here. Okay, let's lay it there for a second. Second one comes off here, put it in here. Right. Get it straight. There we go. Just give it a quick rub there to make sure it's sitting down straight. Level. That's off. So again, front of our wing is with the yellow, curved part forward, sit that in there in the corner. Sorry, it's a little bit difficult to do when I'm holding it up. And sit that here in the corner. There's one. And again, curved edge towards the front. They touch in the center. And there we go. So now you can just kind of tap it down. Second one fitted. So let me put my wings here and here. Turn my plane over. And now if you didn't have any flaps, you're going to put this in the hole here. Same on the other wing. Pop them on. And then this goes on top to hold them down. I am going to install flaps. So this one doesn't have any cutout here for the flap servo. This one has a cutout here for the flap servo in there. Here is flap servo that I bought from HobbyZone Hobby. There's the tag. You can get different ones. This one has it's a DSV 130 3-wire digital servo with metal gear. It's not necessary to buy the one with the metal gear. It's a couple of euros extra. You can buy one also with plastic gear. It just depends on what you want. This is hot glue gun, which I'm going to use to stick this on here. So we have an extension cable, which I didn't use before. You can use it if you like. Put that in a little box of spares. Put that wing over here for the moment. Can't keep it out of the way. So here's this tiny set screw, which is going to go in here, which is going to go on here. And then this is going to get mounted here, like so. Or one could mount it this way, and there's no real space for the cable. Oh. So looking at this here is going to go on there for our flaps, and it sits in here with the cable towards the back, and I'm going to glue that on now with some hot glue on here. So first, I'm not sure how necessary this is, but some people like to do this. Just scratch this up here a little bit. That's the back, that's down, that's this side, and just kind of give that a few scratches. I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue here. So let's double check this. It's going here with the cable towards the back. Hold that here. Take my hot glue gun and just put a little bit, just a small bit of this hot glue here. Okay, and then I'm going to put a small bit of hot glue on the back of this, which I have scratched. Oh, and be careful because it's dripping there. So just a little bit on there. Could be a little bit too much. Cable to the back. Lift that up so that you can see it. It's gonna go in here. That's gonna sit in there in the grooves. Just press it down a little bit, firm it in. Good. That's flat. That should be fine. Now I'm going to get my second wing and join them together. So So this one can go here. Our support slides in here, and the other side will slide in here, joining my wings together. Try and keep my cables out. There we go, there's our wings joined together. Sorry, little streamer of hot glue there. So there's obviously an art to using the hot glue, which I have not yet mastered. This, which will go on here, I'm just going to put it in now. There's my wings. And this is where my flaps are going to connect. So for the next trick, I'm going to use some power. There's my DXS transmitter. I'll show you in another video. What happened to me was, this is kind of your emergency button to straighten it out. It's not working, you see. It doesn't go in anymore. This is safe mode. This is intermediate mode. This is advanced mode. And I put a label here. This is throttle cut. Down will put your throttle on, up will put your throttle off. When you're working on the plane or when you're picking it up, always have your throttle off, or when you're changing the battery, throttle off. That way it won't spin. If it's like this and then you're accidentally touch this, it'll spin. Okay. This is our high and low rates. High rates will give you the maximum throw on the controls. Low rates will give you a slightly less, it's less sensitive and it doesn't move as much. Here's our ailerons, okay, that's left and right. This is our elevator, that's down, that's up. This is our power forward and back, and this is our rudder left and right. These are our trim buttons, and I'll show you how these work in a second. Okay, leave that there for a second. I may need actually to bind this. I'm not quite sure if it'll work without binding. Here's the batteries that came with it, the smart batteries, which is nice. So, you know, if you charge them up full and you don't get to use them, they will discharge correctly to the storage voltage by themselves, a little chip in there. Maximum charge rate is written here, 3C, 6.6 amps. Most batteries you will charge at 1C, which would be 2,200. So, you know, you can just divide it by 1,000 and then you have 2.2 amps. So 1C on this would be 2.2 amps. But it can charge at a higher rate. Not all batteries can, so always check your charging rate, unless of course you have the Spectrum Smart Charger where you just plug them in and it talks to the chip and it does everything. So I'm going to power it up here. I've just put my battery in there loosely, strapped in here, but not properly strapped in. Okay, I'm going to get my bind plug. I'm going to connect my bind plug in here. Okay. And power it up. And now I'm going to turn on press my bind button, which I have just fixed temporarily. Turn this on. Lights blinking. Failed to bind. Okay. So turn this off. Bind plug is in. Power is on. I'll turn this over. Gonna press my bind button, hold it in, power on. It's bound. Okay, so it doesn't work upside down apparently. So now we're running through the tests here. Okay, you can see here. Okay, first of all, there's my throttle cut. If I turn my throttle on, now you see I have power. So you want that turned off. Yeah. Okay, left and right won't work, up and down will. You spin that around so you can see this a little bit better. Probably should have closed that battery door. Here's my tail, left, right, up and down. So the first thing I'm going to notice here is that this is not perfectly straight. Okay, so here we have trim left and right, but to set the plane up I want all the trims neutral. So you'll hear the sound. That's the maximum left, yeah. Then it comes back, it makes a loud beep in the center, and then it goes to the right. Yeah, so I want it in the center. That was it, the louder beep is in the center. I'll check this trim too, all the way up. Beep, all the way up. Beep, that's the center. All the way left, back to center. That's that beep. You leave it go immediately to beep, otherwise it's going to go over to the other side, you see. It'll go here, it'll beep, and then it'll keep going. So the beep is the center. If you have a programmable controller, it may have a display and it may actually show you that. So now all my trims are centered, and this actually looks spot on. Yep, that's perfectly centered. Okay, very nice. So I don't actually need to adjust those. This is my elevator down, up. So that's a little bit down. You can see it here, it's just a tiny bit down. So we can fix that. Let me turn this over here. And I will remove my bind plug. Back in my basket. Keep that. I'm going to close this door because these doors break quite easily. So the issue I have now is that this is not in the correct position. You know? So nose down is here, nose up is here, but it's not quite lined up. It needs a little bit of nose down. I could fix that with trim. Okay, but I want it set up so that when the trim is in the middle, everything is in the middle for starting off. So you can see this is going to move back towards the aeroplane, right? And now it's slightly up. That's an exaggeration, but it's slightly in this direction. So what I want to do is I want to move this so that it's, you know, like there, just there. That's pretty easy to do. I'm going to be twisting this clockwise to move it towards the front of the plane. Take this off here, just twist it around, one, okay, one, that's full turn, half turn, 2 turns, and we're going to go 3 full turns and just see what that is. It may take a little bit of playing around to get this right. It may have made sense to take the battery out for that. Okay, let's put it back on, and now let's see what happens here. So, okay, when you're doing this, make sure you're in advanced mode, because this is safe mode. Safe mode automatically levels things. So make sure it's in advanced mode. The light will be red on the front. Okay. Now, that to me is pretty good actually. So let's have a look. You can see that's lined up perfectly there. And on the tail we can see this is pretty much, can you see that there? Lined up, okay. So that's good. I'm happy with those. So I'm gonna put my little plastic holders towards the end to keep it locked. I'm going to put this here towards the end. So out of the factory, that was pretty good actually. Now it just needed a very, very slight adjustment. This is advanced mode. If I switch this, intermediate mode, blue, and then beginner mode, green. There's my flaps. So my flaps are in the 0 position. Color match the cable, plug it in. And now the servo has moved. Flaps middle, flaps full, flaps middle, flaps up. So now I know that my servo is in the flaps up position. That's why I wanted to do that. This is for my flaps, so I put the rubber down here again, all the way down, and I need a second little piece of rubber. It's gonna go all the way down here. Okay, so those are almost level. Not quite this one here, so I'm gonna twist that out. Half turn, and that looks good. They go on here. So now I know my flap servo is in the right position for flaps up. I'm gonna look here and check this. I see these are not in the exact correct position. So I have to twist one out a little bit. Okay. I'll twist this a little bit down too. They're quite stiff. So I have turned these now that they're both straight. And now I'm going to try and do this without getting in the way of the camera, which may not be terribly easy. Ooh. You need to kind of push them together to get them on. That's one. There we go, they're on, if you can see that. Okay, like so. And now we just move these little plastic ones down. That locks it in there. And it locks that in. And now I have it set up so that they're still, it's not cut, they're not loose, they're fixed in the up position. The next thing I need to do is just connect this here to my servo. This I need, and it's going to go this way. Okay, if you can see that, it's going to go this way. So all I gotta do is get it on here, kind of in the outer hole, wiggle and twist it down a bit. There we go. So now if you can see that here, okay, let me get those wires out of the way. There it is, fixed on here. And I know my flaps are in the up position because I didn't cut here yet, and because my servo is set via the controller to the up position. So now let's just put it on there, exactly where it fits, and it's at the right angle. So this is a very, very small screw. My screwdriver is not magnetic. That would be too easy, I guess. So that's going to go in there. Now if you can see that there. Okay. Screws in. Servo is fixed. Flaps are on. They're lined up. So the next thing we need to do now is free up the flaps. So to free up the flaps, we will cut a line straight down here along that edge, and then we cut another line a few millimeters apart, about the same distance as here, so that it can move freely. And we're going to do the same thing here. Now I'm not great with this sharp knife in a straight line, so I'm actually going to use a saw. I have a little electric saw that's just going to cut straight down here and here, and I'm going to do that outside in my garden, because otherwise I end up with these little pieces of styrofoam all over the place. I'm back, cut it. So I'm going to use a knife just to cut the last piece down to the metal. Obviously I didn't want to do that with the machine saw, just leave it 1 or 2 millimeters away. The next piece that we need to do is we need to remove this and this. Now you may see why I didn't use this knife in the first place. Let me go get a sharper knife. Be very careful, don't go all the way through the wing or the aileron. You know, if in doubt, sorry, if you can see there. If in doubt, don't cut too much. See? Oh. So I don't find this terribly easy, but somebody who does crafts may find this a lot easier. Okay, let's piece of it out. So you don't want to go all the way through. There we go. So that's out. Now it can wiggle. I will do the second one. Now my flaps are free to move. Just wiggling a little bit. I'm not going to bend them yet because it's not all connected. So remove the wings. The flaps are optional. The GPS is optional. And the landing assist sensor is optional. You have to buy them extra. Here we have the GPS module. And the GPS module, that's the front. Here's the plug. You can see there's 2 tiny notches on one side of the plug, and those 2 tiny notches face downward when you're connecting it. It plugs in here in the front left, plugs in here like that, and then you can move your cables around and basically, oh, that's the wrong way around. And it's going to sit in there. You can put some tape on the sides to hold it down. I'm not going to use it right now. I just wanted to show you that's it. That's how you connect it. It adds a little bit of difficulty to the startup. There's 1 or 2 more things you can do during a startup procedure. It is quite good if you're going to give the plane to a beginner. It will stop them going outside of a certain geo-fence, so if they fly too far away, the plane will take over, turn around, come back. Some people have said they fly away by themselves with this. If they do fly away by themselves, you can turn it off. Simply, you know, you grab your controller here, you press the bind button, and you flick this 3 times, yeah? 1, 2, 3. And it should disable the GPS. So read the manual if you're going to use this. I'm not actually going to connect it in this plane. I just wanted to show you how to do it. I'm going to connect it in my other plane, which is going to go through a bit of a renovation. And my other plane is the one I'm going to use for teaching my friends in. Another reason why I'm not going to put it in here, it adds a little bit of weight, and I want to put a camera on this, so you know, with a slightly larger battery, this and a little camera on the top, that might be a bit too much for the plane. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it, haven't tried it. But anyway, that's how it works. Going in here, the two little pins on the bottom, plugs in here and sits in there. That's the GPS module. Yeah. Possibly in another video I will show you it in my spare plane and showing you exactly how it works. But my spare plane has a bit of damage, so I'm going to change the fuselage, and then I've got to take all of these things out anyway, so it will be easier to connect this. This is my extension cable for my flaps. I'm going to pull it out because I don't need the extension cable there. So this plane is all ready to have the wings attached. Okay, everything is done, everything is set up. My wings will go here and here. My flap will go in here. My landing assist sensor is already plugged in there to number 7. What I'm actually going to do is, I just wanted to show you how to plug in that landing assist sensor. I'm going to take it out now because, as I said, it's going to be used in my spare plane. So it just comes out like that. And we put the blank cover back on. So just wanted to show you how to install the landing assist sensor, where the GPS will go, and the flaps, so that you can have a full lesson on this. But we don't need to do anything else in here except connect these. And this is aileron left, so we match the colors, brown with brown. That goes like that. Is it going to go in there? Let me just do it. No, it's the wrong way around, huh? Brown to brown. So yeah, these connectors, they will kind of stop you making a mistake. So if it doesn't go in relatively easily, aileron right. Let's find my aileron right here. Okay. Again, brown wire there. It's a brown wire, and aileron right is the brown wire here. So if you want to see in the future using the GPS and the landing assist sensor, I will show you in the next video when I reassemble and repair my slightly damaged plane. I have some strings of this hot glue still here. The landing assist sensor goes into number 7. Actually, on this plane, I'm not going to use landing assist sensor. I'm going to use it on the other one. So I could probably use number 7 for my lights, now that I think about it. This is going to go into number 8. So, sorry if I get in the way there. So, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So, the flaps have gone into number 8. Connected up here to the server. Glue is dry. So when I put this in now, you want to be careful of these cables. You don't want to get caught up in these because they move, and you don't want to get caught up in these. So I'm going to try and keep these cables forward, yeah? And make sure that your bind plug is down out here before you put the wings on, yeah? I mean, if not, it's not the end of the world. Okay, sorry about that now. Put all my cables forward. Make sure that everything's out of the way. Take my 4 screws. I have quite a fine thread. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're putting this on, we're making sure that there's no cables loose, and we made sure that nothing is stuck down there. And we're putting these in here, a little bit tight there. Not too tight. Okay. Push them off there. So putting these 4 screws in, it can be a little bit tricky to get them all to line up. So you maybe need a bit of patience, and you may need to double check that there isn't any screws loose or connected. So here I have I just have some little pieces I can tidy off there. There we go. It doesn't matter so much. That's everything together. I spin it around here. And now, of course, I need to put the label there that says connect the controller first. Flaps are all the way up. Engine cut off is cut off. I put some labels on here again for people learning. It's probably helps a little bit. Okay, let me turn this on. It's on. Open this up. Connect my battery. Now don't forget to put the Velcro on the other side of your battery, and it's your choice if you use the Velcro that came with the plane, or if you want to use Velcro that's a little bit different. The plane doesn't activate until you turn it over. Now it's turned over. It's going to do my checks. So, I don't know if you can see that there. And now we can check. So our rudder left and right is good. Up and down is good. And left and right. So, question some people ask is, when you go full right or full left, why do the servos keep clicking? Now they've stopped. So the reason for that is that probably these here are a little bit stiff. It may loosen out in time, or you can, you know, if you have a more powerful transceiver, you can set it up so that they only move 95% of the way or something like that. But here, it's kind of clicking for a second, and then it stops. You know? Clicking a little bit, and you see if I move it a tiny bit, stops. Yeah. Then if you go, so you have your left, your right, and if I put on the reduced mode, they don't turn as much. And now I can turn on my prop. Working, prop off, motor off. And now let's test the flaps. So they're in a fully up position, perfectly lined up here. Flaps down 1, it works. Flaps down 2, I need to just, you know, shave that off a little bit. Flaps back up to the center, and flaps all the way up. Good. So that's it set up with, I showed you the landing assist sensor and the GPS, but you know, I took them out because I'm not going to use them on this plane. The flaps I will use. So everything is set up, ready to go. And don't forget, your red light on the front is advanced mode. Okay. Intermediate mode, beginner mode. So beginner mode is green. That basically means that when you turn left or right and you let go, the plane will straighten itself up. Whereas that's not normal with an aeroplane. Normally with an aeroplane, when you put it into a turn and then you let go, it will stay in that turn until you go in the opposite direction to straighten it up. So the safe mode is quite easy and interesting. Beginner, or the middle mode will let you handle it like a real aeroplane, except for the fact that it limits your bank and it limits your pitch. And if it thinks you're going a bit too crazy, it will straighten the aeroplane. Your bind button here, even if you're in advanced mode, your bind button will straighten up the plane. Mine is stuck again, so I'll show you how to fix that in another video, but it does get stuck. So if you are in advanced mode trying some aerobatics, I wouldn't rely on this bind button to save you. Just flick it down into safe mode. And make sure that you have a little bit of altitude, because it takes a second, you know. And then of course safe mode will take another 1 or 2 seconds to level out the plane, and it may require more altitude to level out the plane. Put it on to low rates, that's turned. Switch it to high, see it moves a little bit more. Flaps, center position, all the way down, all the way up. And then here's my elevator up and down. Yeah. Only thing to note with the flaps is if you are in the easier mode, you don't have a lot of elevator control. It has reduced that to stop you going out of bounds, but the fact of the matter is when you have full flaps, this is probably not going to be enough to keep the plane from ballooning up and stalling. So, you know, if I'm in beginner mode, I just use the flaps when I'm about, you know, a foot or half a meter off the ground, right before I land, no power, hit the flaps on. And I will try this with a more advanced controller in the future. Final stage of the wing assembly is the support struts. We have 2 of these, okay, to support our wings. Now what you'll notice is that one side is longer than the other side. Yeah? So when you put them on, you have to check. So this side is also tilted, so it's going to go this way, and the flat part is going to be here. It's going to connect on here, and one is going to go there and one is going to go there, and the same thing is going to happen down here. So I've already checked this lines up on the wing. So the second one, comes here. Just let me oops. And now this screw is going to hold this one in here. Another screw will go in there, and the same on the other wing. So now, not tightening it up all the way, of course, until I'm ready. I've just turned this over so that you can see screw going in here, screw going in here, screw going in here, and the same 3 over there. So I think that this leg is a little bit longer than that leg, so don't mix them up. I'm going to show you something that's also very important. So of course if you read the manual thoroughly you'll know this, but your center of gravity is very important, because when you're placing your battery or when you're doing anything like that, you need to make sure every single time before you fly you need to check your center of gravity. Why is that very important? Well, if your center of gravity is too far forward, your nose will keep coming down and the plane will be very difficult to control. If your center of gravity is too far back, your nose will keep going up, which will be impossible to fly, because when the nose goes up you reduce speed, and when you reduce speed too much you stall, and then the plane will come down and crash. So here in the manual there is a section on page 12 of this book on the center of gravity, and it tells me it's between 62 and 68 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing root. So 62 to 68, and what most people will do is this, lining this up with the edge, okay, and 61, double check that, okay, 62 is here, and 65, 6, 7, 8 is about here, okay. So this is going to be my forward CG, that's going to be my aft CG. Sorry, I didn't turn off this. So if you don't use it for a few minutes, it tends to beep at you. And then I'll do the same on the other side. So let's get this right here on the edge, okay. And then we have again 62 and 68 there. What you're going to use these dots for is when you fit the battery into the plane, then before you fly, you will put your finger here on this center of gravity, and you will put your other finger here on this center of gravity marking, and your plane should balance perfect. Oh, sorry, I bring that down there. Your plane is now, you see, I'm holding it only with my two fingers on those two markings, and my plane is perfectly balanced. If it wasn't in CG, the plane would be tilting backwards or tilting forwards, which would mean that I need to change the position of my battery. And that is basically everything set up. So once you know all that, you're ready to take it out, try and fly. Just read the manual carefully, and of course if you are a beginner and if you don't want to destroy your plane on the first flight, which a heck of a lot of people end up doing, find somebody who's experienced with flying or seaplanes, ask them to come out with you, and they can give you some simple pointers. Also, you can watch many YouTube videos on it, and hopefully I will also in the future put on 1 or 2 videos flying this. And just one reminder at the end, always not only disconnect your battery, which is a bit of a challenge sometimes, take it out, always take it out and put it back in your lipo-safe bag or your big metal box, because hopefully yours will never go on fire, but they can, and on occasion they do, and you don't want that to happen when you have this, you know, in your wooden cupboard or your wooden study unit desk, where your whole house could end up going up. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. Showed you how to put in plane together, put the flaps on, and some tips on the landing assist sensor and the GPS unit. Fly safe. First time out, go with some experienced people, go to a club. People will love to show you and help you out. I'm going to put more videos on here. I'm going to show you how to, oh, it pressed once and then it got stuck again. Yeah, so I'm going to show you how to fix this permanently, because you're using that button not only for bind but for straightening out your plane in a panic. It helps that it works. I know that from experience. I'm going to make some videos on restoring my old plane. I'm going to replace the fuselage. I'm going to put the GPS and the LAS in it and actually connect them up and take them out into the field and use them. And here I'm going to put a camera on here and see how that works out. If you want to see those, subscribe, and see you for the next one. Bye.